Now.
Okay, let's go.
Okay. Hey, everybody. It's Monday night. It's Always Bookin Comedy. This is one of my favorite things. Here's somebody I don't know at all. So, and let's get to know each other.
Okay.
Nice to meet you. I'm Mark.
Nice to meet
I'm
you,
in
Mark.
Denver, Colorado. Where are you?
So, well, right at this moment, I'm in New York City on 42nd and 10th Avenue.
Fun.
So I don't know if you can hear the sirens in the background. They seem to be ever vigilant.
Okay.
But I am from Michigan, the suburbs of Detroit, a nice little place called Bloomfield Hills. And
Okay.
and yeah, so I'm born and raised Michigan kid.
Amazing.
Yeah.
And you run some kind of comedy stuff in Traverse City, Michigan, right?
I do. I produce the Traverse City Comedy Fest, which
Okay.
is we just finished our 4th year in April. It's been
Amazing.
unbelievable. We had a great year. We really try to bring in top shelf talent. So we had Gary Goldman this year.
He's my favorite.
Love him. We had Roy Wood Jr.
Wow.
Yeah. We also had Sarah Sherman from Saturday Night Live.
Yeah, of course.
And
Yeah.
Nick Stalter from Hack.
Oh, cool.
And Joe DeVito. So we just, we really
That's unbelievable. And now, so I run a festival myself. We just finished our festival. These are some big names. Are you like, is there like a bankrolling this? Or
oh God, I wish. I have
those are expensive people.
Yes, they are. You're absolutely right. And that's kind of been our unique selling proposition. I mean, very first year we had Tom Papa, Marie Bamford, Jackie Cation, and I would say Dean Edwards. And then last year we had Mark Maron. So we really, we work hard to bring those names in. Traverse City is the biggest tourist city in the state of Michigan and one of the biggest in the Midwest. And it's beautiful there. And they have a really good selection of venues. They've got gorgeous opera house. And so, all of it can be a perfect storm, and you know how it is. You run a festival, you cross your fingers that you break even and that you might be able to, put a few dollars in your pocket at the end of the day. Never is enough for the amount of work and love that goes into it. But, this is what we do when we're not telling jokes on stage.
Yeah. Incredible. So do you have to work with agents and have very long contracts? And
yeah, I've built some really good relationships with the folks at United Talent, also at CAA and Gersh and IGA, the major places. It's taken years, but I will tell you, in the instance of Sarah Sherman and Meg Stalter, they're doing like a dual headlining show right now. They're just kind of rolling it out. I think we were one of the very first cities they came to. And my buddy Mike over at United Talent, pitched them to me. And of course I knew who Sarah was and I knew who Meg was, but I didn't know if everyone else did. And I was like, I don't know. And he said, no, you got to trust me on this one. And he was totally right. We sold out, very quickly. And it was one show. So so it's how how it is. It's always a nail biter.
Yeah. Do the headliners fly in and out in like a 24-hour period?
Yeah. Well, you know what? For the first time this year, we had Sarah stayed for 2 nights and Gary Goldman stayed for 2 nights. Usually they're in one day, out the next. Mm-hmm. And I will tell you, Roy Wood Jr., such a sweetheart. He got to the hotel. He was a little early. His room wasn't ready. So he was hanging out with the comics in the lobby. He killed at his show at the Opera House in Traverse City. And then he went with us over to a late night show and did a set on another show.
Oh, no.
So that, and another thing we do is we house all of the comics in the same hotel along with headliners. So it becomes this kind of, 3-day party with some, with a bunch of shows thrown in. So there's some of the comics refer to it as comedy camp, but that dynamic of everybody in the same place, nobody's got to drive. It's a very walkable town. So you can walk to almost all of the venues from where we're located. And the late night venue is literally across the street from the hotel. So it's an exhausting weekend, but it is a great time. I'm very proud of it. We live in and I've been looking at your festivals too, totally legit, great stuff. But you know how it is. This word festival gets bandied around in a lot of places that it's, I think taking some liberties sometimes.
Yeah. Yeah, there are definitely different levels to festivals. And I've heard for years about the Traverse City Comedy Festival. You run into comics, you ask them, what gigs have you done recently? Who's paying well? What festivals are fun to go to? And
right.
You just hope that you're in the mix of
absolutely
fun,
but I think I'm very proud as a regional festival that we've been able to to bring this talent to our state, to this city, which I love. It's my second home in Michigan. And there, people, we're Midwesterners, right? So, we're very close to the ground. We're good people. We're very grounded for the most part, even though our weather's all over the flipping map. But people are very appreciative, and we have a benefactor. There's a women's resource center that we support as part of our festival, and with the tourism bureau, Traverse City Tourism could not be a better partner. So it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of work.
It's so much work. I mean, I'm still like it's been 8 days since my festival ended, and I'm still like repairing equipment and loading out and
tying up those loose ends, the thank yous and the correspondence and it's a lot of fun.
Video and the photos and oh man. But I'm like a week or two away from wiping my hands of it for 6 months or so.
My festival was mid-April, so I went east on May 3rd with my guy, and we've kind of been on the road, and we have a semi-regular place here in the city, and so it takes me away from all of that. And I've done some shows here since I've been here, jumped on some stages and had some fun. So you know how it is. You're a comic too. When you leave your home base for 6 weeks, all of a sudden, you weren't really putting the veils out. And so, I'm having a lot of FOMO watching all of my friends on shows on social media. But and luckily I made some friends. Some of the comics from my festival are from New York. And, they've been good enough. I'll throw a shout out to my girl, Janelle Draper, who's really been great. She's gotten me on a couple of shows.
I know Janelle.
Isn't she wonderful?
Yeah. We did some shows together in the Boston area. And she also was involved in a film project. Our comedy festival has a film festival now.
Yes.
And it was the inaugural movie, Anxiety Club. Everybody go check it out.
She approached me about how could we build that into the festival. And at the time, things were pretty set in stone. I couldn't really figure out how to do that. But I want to talk to you offline about this idea of doing some comedy-related film in conjunction with a comedy festival and how you make that work. And you know how it is, that the pie's only so big, right?
Yeah. It's tough. We've removed, this is the first year we kind of aggressively removed some stuff. Like a big obvious one that nobody seemed to miss is we used to do live podcast tapings. And it was so much work to organize all the people, and we would involve the headliners, and then you got to get 4 microphones and a soundboard and all the equipment, and you got to video record them. And it was just like a ton of energy. And I just was like, you know what, we need to start simplifying. And
we tried it one year, and it was like, nah, too much work, not enough ROI. And I hate to sound too businessy, but at the end of the day, most shows need to be revenue producing to keep the whole machine running, right? Yeah. Now we do some free stuff. One of the things we do is we try to bring in a lot of comics that may not have made the cut for the company, but we invite them to come up. We have open mics every night that are only open to them. Okay. We have a number of shows where we put lottery spots on the show so they can get on the show. And all of our workshops and that sort of thing are open to everybody. So we're trying to create that environment to really bring people up there. But let me ask, do you do improv in your festival? No. Yeah, that's we have for the last 4 years. And I love the people. and it's, Traverse City actually has a couple really strong improv groups. So that makes it work. But I think it's tricky when you mix those two disciplines,
Yeah.
I even tried to do a workshop this year where it was comics that did both stand up and improv. And I thought I would be bombarded with people that wanted to be part of that. And it was a little tough, So we're not walking away from it, because I think those folks really help to support, and there is an audience there for it. But I do notice that I don't see it in a lot of other festivals.
Yeah. Do you do like Q&As with the headliners that are like formal between the submission comics and
When we can get them, their schedules are tough. Now, I will say that, Gary was, because everybody's in the same hotel, he's kibitzing with all the comics after his show. Right. And we do actually, we brought in 7 or 8 industry people this year, bookers from around the country, and, 3 or 4 specific to Michigan. And we did a couple of panel discussions with them. And so, and a lot of these people are, and oftentimes a headliner will drop in on those. I'll never forget year 1, Maria Bamford sitting in the back row of the room, taking notes in a session. I was like, oh my God, that was so crazy, but they'll pop in. You never know.
yeah.
But
But you
Q&A,
don't contractually obligate them to do anything like that.
that's hard to do. A lot of that is in the moment.
Okay.
And Mark, you know how it is. I'm guessing you work with some agents that
I don't at all. I have a pretty hard line about not working with agents.
Well, it adds a layer for sure, and I love most of them, but I often find that, and I don't want to talk trash about agents, because I would never do that, but their presentation of the artist to you as a booker is really like, sometimes I'm scared to death when these people walk in. I don't know what I'm going to get. And I will tell you, every single headliner we've ever had could not have been lovelier, could not have been more open to do things. I'll never forget Tom Papa at 5:00 in the morning doing the live radio remote from the lobby of the hotel on his way to catch his plane. Just really, really good people.
Yeah.
So the agents I love, some more than others.
Yeah, I'm trying to book headliners a couple years before they agent up, and won't.
That's super smart.
Yeah.
And we've had a number of headliners that we had a direct line to, and they agreed to come and do the festival, but then you still, then it gets turned over to their folks.
Right. Yeah.
And it's a lot of coordination and a lot of, I think I hate the word schmoozing, but just getting to know them. I had one agent one time tell me, "You're my favorite festival producer." I'm like, "Oh my God, could you put that in writing? And I'm going to make a plaque and put it on my wall so that everybody can see that."
Yeah. So tell me a little bit about, like, during the weekend, the team that pulls this off. Is it just you running around? Or?
Oh God, I wish we've got, no, I don't wish. I have 2 partners. One, a guy named Stuart Lazar, who actually owns the comedy club in Traverse City. And then our 3rd partner is a guy named Bob Phillips, who is a national touring headliner. And we brought him into the festival this year. We had another partner for the first couple of years, and that sort of, we split off. And then we brought Bob in, who luckily, owned an ad agency for years. So he brought his media team with him. And, on top of that, I've got an amazing production director who does a lot of the coordination with the venues. We have a team, some comic friends that I have that have been on the festival a few times already, that are taking a break, that'll come up and be a showrunner at a venue.
Okay.
And so
what does a showrunner do?
They're running the venue, the night of the show, making sure everything goes smoothly. They're the interface with the talent. And, we do one show that has 30 contestants in it, and 3 judges and a host. So there's a lot of stuff that goes on. But they're great people. I have one gal, a very good friend of mine, who's been working with us for a couple of years, and she has an improv background. So she runs that night, those shows in that theater, and I know she's
How many nights is your festival?
just 3. We tried 4 one year and it was just too aggressive. You know how you have a little
Friday, Saturday, Sunday?
Usually Thursday, Friday, Saturday.
Okay.
You know, we did Wednesday one year and it was just we stretched too thin.
Yeah.
But it was okay. No complaints.
What are the sizes of your venues? Like from
the largest is the City Opera House, which we use predominantly, seats about 672.
Wow.
And then we partner with a beautiful hotel in the market called the Park Place, and they can actually put a little over 700 people in their venue. And that was where we had Sarah and Meg's show on opening night. And I just remember standing at the back of the room and just seeing that all in one, a sea of humanity. It was amazing. And then aside from there, there's a 250 seat venue and a 150 seat club. And, you know how it is. Sometimes you got to spread it into a lot of places.
Right.
And, we've made, this year was interesting because we had a fella, a comic that we knew that was going to open a small comedy club in downtown Traverse City. And then the deal didn't happen. And so the 5 shows that we were going to do there, I had to split up with 3 different venues. It was the dirty shows. And then, but we partnered with a bar there for those shows. And then actually our hotel, the Hotel Indigo, I have to shout out, which is part of the IHG group. They transformed their ballroom into a show stage. We did an improv, we did a murder mystery show there, and we did a showcase there. They were great. And then we had this brewery, which, somebody really sold me on it. I was like, okay, let's go. And I signed on and we went on the site visit, and I just was having trouble visualizing how this was going to happen there, but it came out perfectly. So, when you got a good crew, and I will tell you one thing I have learned over the years is how to delegate.
Okay.
Because I don't know about you, I'm a little bit of a control freak. I'm very right-brained, ADD. And so to give, power to someone else to take something on is hard for me, but the older I get, the better I get at it. And it makes such a difference, when you have an army. We had a staff of 17 people, all in, and then, another 100 volunteers, so it's a lot.
That's a big production. So how do you do ticketing? Do you sell just individual tickets, or can people buy?
We work through a ticketing platform, and it has been that way. I've never, and maybe you could give me some advice on how to sell like a full festival pass, because so many of our venues, especially, we sold out all 5 of our headliner shows this year. So, the problem with an all access ticket can be, what if you you count seats for every show, but then they don't come to every show? How do you, that's tricky for me. But we do a lot of bundles. It's like, get these 3 headliners and then get that one for a really great deal. And I will tell you, that has really built over time, this idea of people coming and making a weekend out of it and staying in the city and seeing 3, 4, 5, 6 shows.
Yeah.
We really tweaked our schedule this year, so we had less overlap than we've had in the past. So people could go see a 4:00 show, a 6:00 show, and a 9:00 show if they wanted to.
I don't know about you, but I don't like festivals with overlapping shows. There are 2 obvious problems. One is you always have FOMO, because you never know, is Tom Papa doing a drop-in set at the other one? And then every time I've been to a festival with overlapping shows, 40 minutes into a show, 10 people stand up and leave to go get in line for the next show. And it's like, it's not fair to the comic on stage, and I don't think it's fair to the audience either.
I so agree. And I'm with you, because I'm so ADD, that idea that I can't see every single thing that I want to.
Yeah.
And for the very first few years of the festival, it kind of was that way. I mean, in 2025, we had 27 shows over 3 days. We took that to 19 in 2026 with very little crossover. I even think about what comics are at a showcase that might want to, if I have extra tickets, I'm bringing the comics in.
Right.
Now, this year, we didn't have as much of that. but they love that, and we ask every comic to volunteer at one show as an usher.
Okay.
And that gives them a way to maybe get into a headliner show that they weren't for sure going to get a ticket to.
Right.
So
Yeah.
we did that for the first time this year, and I thought, oh, are people going to be? But the comics loved it. They said, oh my God, it made me feel so much more involved.
So, people apply to be part of your festival, right?
Yes, we are a submission-based festival.
And have you seen submissions grow over time or level off? And how are you promoting?
This year we had more submissions than ever. Okay. And I think in the first 3 years of the festival, we were a little passive about how we put that out there. But this year we had a very concerted effort. And you know what? It was getting on all the lists, all the, comedy happenings in Denver, comedy happenings in Chicago. And we took our company size down to 30 comics because it had been up to 45 in years past. And out of the 30 comics that we had, half of them were out-of-state comics.
Okay.
And the talent that submitted just blew me. It was off the charts. And, we had, when you have over, 300 submissions for 30 spots, people, a lot of feelings get hurt, especially when it's a regional or a statewide festival. And we've had a lot of comics that have been on the festival before, and that's great. And I think I have 4 comics that have been on the festival every year, and that's great. But we want to keep promoting other people, new people. And you know how it is. You're the most loved or the most hated, depending on who you talk to. Right. Yeah. And I've really gone out of my way to have the vetting be less dependent on my taste.
Yeah. Well, I don't watch any tape.
So I don't in the first round.
Okay.
We have about 12 people that are part of this, and it's all kind of, figured out. I don't want to give away our secret sauce. Sure. But then when we get down to here's the ranking and then I start looking at it. Okay. But before all is said and done, I do go back and look at all of the submission tapes, which is hard. You know how it is. People ask for advice. Where could I do better? I'll tell you, I don't know about you, but the single thing is the quality of the video clip.
Yeah.
I've had so many comics that I know are so talented and so funny, and they didn't make the cut with our panel because their clip was either from an iPhone or
somebody's holding it in the back next to a margarita machine.
There's a waitress, a server standing in front of the frame for 30 seconds of the video. I have those clips too, right? But at some point you gotta really think about that, and now you have a lot of people doing, dry bar and open bar specials, and they've got multi-camera videos now, and that, that's expensive, and you gotta kind of be into it for a while before you can do that. But that makes a big difference. It really, really does.
We got a related question from North Carolina here. You got me ready to book a flight to Traverse City. How important is a social media presence with getting booked, or is the video submission the most important?
Well, I thank you for that question. I do agree that social media presence has become such a gigantic part of our business. And sometimes I think it might be to the detriment of the business. I mean, Mark, you know how it is. How many comics are performing at clubs in your area that are really kind of online sensations?
Yeah, quite a
right.
few.
They're not, or they're a TV personality that is now becoming a stand-up because they can leverage their name recognition. Yeah. And we do look at that for sure. I mean, listen, I want our comics to help push the information out, but that's not first and foremost. Our criteria is, number one, are you funny? Did you make me laugh in the first 30 seconds of your set? Is your stage presence on where it should be? Are you different? How are you different? And in any we know what the odds are in the business. The majority of people in the business are guys between 25 and 40, right? Yeah. I mean, for women like to say, oh, women don't get enough opportunity in comedy. I'm like, zip it. the numbers are in our favor. Just do your best work and you're going to do well, because I do believe that bookers really, really, truly do want to have women on their shows.
Yeah.
But, so I'm all about quit the griping, ladies, and let's just do good work and get booked. Right. But, we also try to have as much diversity as we can. We really look at those numbers. What is our male female ratio? I wish that could be 50-50. It just doesn't land that way. We're very big on comics over 40. There's so much talent right now out there with comics that are established. They have an audience, they bring people with them. And I think a lot of festivals really don't take a look at, and I'm saying this, of course, because I'm one of them, but I think festivals, and whenever I have a festival producer say, what could I do better? I'm like, I don't know how many comics over 40 you're hiring, but you should look at that because they not only have decent social media followings, they have name recognition and they bring people in.
Yeah.
So I think that's important. We really look at having good LGBTQ representation. I'm very proud. We've had a number of trans comics that have been in the festival, 2 this year, 1 that's been with us 3 times. And then also, what's the other thing I'm thinking of? Age, well, and then, BIPOC, good representation from that Black, Indigenous, people of color category. I think that, and Traverse City is a very Midwestern Michigan town, right? And it's pretty. It's pretty white, but I will tell you the audience is there, and they're not all from Traverse, but most of them are from Michigan. They embrace this kind of diversity to see this kind of talent. I've never really had people complain about someone. One year Rory Scovel did some religious stuff, and I don't know, somebody got their nose out of joint about that, but and really, I mean, that's so limited. I'm sure you see that too.
Sure. Can I ask you about the industry? It sounds like this year you had a push for industry. How did you make that happen? Are you helping pay for a vacation?
Well,
where did you find the industry, et cetera?
Yeah, I mean, it depends. We had 7 industry people there. 4 of them were people that book inside of Michigan. One books a major comedy club in Detroit. One books another comedy club in Detroit. And, we, for some of them, it's a hotel room. We're going to put you up for the weekend. You could go to any show you want. And we ask you to be on a panel. Generally they're great. We also had, Ron Feingold, who is the founder who runs Open Bar Comedy, which is a new kind of not different than Dry Bar, but very cool.
The dirtier Dry Bar.
Yes, exactly. The not so clean. And a guy named Roger Paul in New York, who's a friend of one of my partners, longtime agent, and somebody involved in the business. Try to think of the others. But for the most part, bringing them in, providing a hotel room. If they're from out of state, sometimes we'll help with the airfare, and we, I'd rather not have to. I mean, to me, that's enough of that's a line item right there. The hotel rooms, the transportation when we can do that, and they bring so much to the table. We do a panel where it's Ask the Bookers, and that's great. And then we did another panel that a lot of them sat on.
Can the public come to that, or is it just the comics?
Yes, anybody can come to our workshops. But we did another one about, how do you, when you get to this point where you're performing regionally and you're trying to get to that next step, where do you go? What do you do? How does that happen? I don't know about you, but I know a lot of comics that are doing cruise ships, which is something that people, used to stick their nose in the air at for years. But, it's not a bad gig.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, we're trying to, provide for the community, have a good experience for the comics. Maybe people learn a thing or two. And at the end of the day, everybody's happy. And if my partners and I make a few bucks, that fuels us into the next year.
Yeah. Awesome. All right. Well, we're running out of time here. Let me ask you, I want to talk about your comedy a little bit. Before we do that, why don't you give me, somebody comes to you and says, hey, I want to start a comedy festival. What are your top 3 or 5 tips after doing this for 4 years?
I think number one, you got to figure out the money, right? I mean, we started in Traverse because the Downtown Traverse City Association had a mandate. They wanted to bring tourism to the market in a time of year that wasn't necessarily there. And they had budget and dollars to make that happen. Okay. So knowing what you have monetarily going in is huge. And then second, I think, identify what's your unique selling proposition about your festival. If it's a one-day thing and you're going to call it a festival, then celebrate that. If it's, we're not all Netflix as a joke, and we're not all just for laughs, and, in between there is a big span, but, just be authentic, and then I think you have to decide your approach in terms of submission-based versus curated. Okay. The very first year of our festival, it was curated, but I think giving an opportunity to as many people as possible is a great thing. And then make sure you've got the right time of year, that you're in the right place, that you've got good venues and good partnership from those venues, and a built-in audience in the region. Maybe not just the city that you're in, but the region in general, I think is important.
Yeah. Okay, let's talk about your comedy. I'm a little confused. Do you live in New York City, or do you live in Michigan, or do you live in both?
I live in Michigan. I'm in New York at an extended stay, but I have been doing stand-up for about 8 years. And I started very late, and I had some serious adversity in my life. I was widowed twice. I lost a stepdaughter. I had a lot of loss, and I got to a point, and I went to theater school at University of Michigan. So I was a theater kid always. And I got to the point where I wanted to entertain again, and I tried stand up, and I loved it, and it's been great. I've had some amazing opportunities. I've opened for some phenomenal people. I'm very business oriented, so this festival part has taken maybe a larger portion of my time than the performance part. Sure. Which is okay. I'm all right. I'm a woman of a certain age. And I think when you get to a certain age, you got a lot of history, a lot of stuff to draw from, and frankly, for me, audiences, most certainly in Michigan, tend to be middle-aged. When I walk into a place and there's a lot of couples in their 50s, I'm like, yeah, New York's different. I did a show the other night, and I do a survey about how many people in the room over the age of 45, and me and my boyfriend were the only 2 people in the room that were. So it's like, oh shit. But you just you go with the flow. It's like I'm not everybody's cup of tea. I just hope when I get there that I relate to some people. And I have a lot of women that come to me after my shows and say, oh my God, I know exactly what you're talking about. Yeah. But it's fun. You got to have thick skin to be in this business, and every time you bomb, you get one step closer to a big win. Sure. So we stay with it. We're a mix of people with low self-esteem and high ego. Right.
Well, you've done incredible things with the Traverse City Comedy Festival. Where can people submit if they're interested? And then where can people track you?
If you go to Facebook to the Traverse City Comedy Fest, not festival, that's the differentiator. Or if you go to our website, traversitycomedyfest.com, right now it's all reviews about this year, as we haven't put, the dates have been announced for next year, April 15th to the 17th, I believe. And submissions will probably open in December. We've got about a 60-day window, and then we announce, a few weeks after.
What, 5-minute tape? Is that what they're?
Yeah, 5-minute tape, a short bio, less than 100 words, and headshot.
Okay.
And that's pretty much it.
Okay. And where do people track you down?
How to get you? Say that one more time.
Where do people track you down as a comedian?
I'm at anneduke.com. You can find me at Ann Duke on Facebook. On Instagram, I'm at the Duchess 59. So, with a name like Duke, the Duchess is kind of my handle. And 59 is not my age. Well, I won't tell you what that stands for. I think when I said it, it might have been my age.
Okay.
But anyway, so fun to be with you.
Yeah, of course. Stick around. I want to gossip a little bit about some
Sure.
stuff. And thanks
Absolutely.
everybody for tuning in. This was an incredible episode, Anne. Great job.
Thank
We're
you.
really
Great
gonna love
fun.
this.
I enjoyed it.
And we'll see everybody next Monday. Have a great week.